Well, one thing that was tended to, Keith, was the commitment to go ahead with the tunnel, and we're going to do a feasibility study, $9.1 million. There's all kinds of worms in this particular can, just in and of itself, because at the same time, it might have been, I think it was at least Global News was reporting that there's already been work done on feasibility, and we wanted to see that based on the idea that we're going to do another report. The government deciding that no, we're not going to release that, even based there was an FOI done. Freedom of Information request. No, you can't have it. You can't see it. It's going to violate all these cabinet conventions, etc. The problem here for me, as I look at another 9.1, which is not a lot of money in the grand scheme of things, but it's $9.1 million spent on trying to get the answers you want. That's the way it reads to me.
Well, absolutely. If you're not releasing your first feasibility study, it's because the project was found to be not feasible, I would suspect, if you want it to be feasible. So clearly, this is a government, spending another $9 million, which, by the way, was not listed in the fall economic statement. We had to ask about it afterwards. The line that there was one line committing the government to the 401 tunnel and having the study done, but the $9.1 million came out later. We had to ask the government where the specific details in that were. The whole thing, though, the company that they're hiring to do this feasibility study is being sued by the city of Toronto for $36 million because of its design work that led to 8 months of delays on the Gardiner Expressway revitalization or rebuild. So it just looks like the government, as you say, trying to buy its way to the result it wants for a project that appears to be really just a pet project of the premier that no one else really thinks is feasible or realistic in the long run. I mean, tunneling underneath the 401 from one end of Toronto to the other, it just seems a project that's doomed to go, gazillions of dollars over budget if it ever becomes a reality. But for now, it seems to be a good distraction for this government, spending $9 or $10 million on a second feasibility study to keep us talking about the 401 tunnel, as opposed to all the things that Premier Wynne just mentioned, the colleges, the universities, the healthcare system, all of which are starving for money. And it should be noted in this fall economic statement that the Conservatives are still spending like drunken liberals. Revenues are up, but the deficit is up again, and the debt is going to reach $500 billion next year. That's under the progressive Conservative government who claims to be fiscally responsible. I don't know how they can make that claims, and they point to, the population has increased. Yes, but you could have done a lot better with your spending. You could have reined in a lot more or targeted more areas that really need it, including hospitals, the healthcare system overall, and education.
Yeah, Tim, it's funny to me that gets the headline, this whole issue, and I realize it's a shiny thing over here. It's the squirrel for the dog for the media gallery and so on, and we're going to chase that one in terms of the dollars and cents and how silly or whatever outrage button it might push. But there were still other things, and I just I can't remember whether you're a pro tunnel guy or you're sort of on the sidelines on the tunnel, but even that, here's what we're not talking about. And today, as we speak, the Prime Minister is going to talk about all of his mega projects that they're going to sort of put on the table. Based on the reporting so far, it doesn't look like Ring of Fire is there. So to me, it would have been more likely that we would have seen far more emphasis on that provincially, because now you've got but they've got something to complain about literally at Queen's Park to say we aren't getting Ring of Fire. Might be getting the nickel mine, but we're not getting Ring of Fire. So there's an opportunity there to really pound away at something that we really do need, and they really are committed to, we really want to invest in, that the feds aren't prepared to put on the table yet.
So two topics there. I certainly did have this view in Minister Bethan Falvey's fall economic statement and subsequent media that there were really two tracks. One was to say this is a continuation. We are on track to Protect Ontario plan. Here's the progress we've made. And by the way, we're ahead of our deficit targets. And in an era where governments across Canada have increased spending through COVID and now as a result of the Trump tariffs, our debt to GDP ratio is actually far better than the federal government or any of the large provinces. So that was a note that I heard pretty clearly. The second note, though, Dave, to your point just now, he was driving a message in contrast on the infrastructure. And he did express a clear disappointment and met with Minister Champagne before the feds, I believe, to talk about investing in infrastructure. And the road to the Ring of Fire was a major one that he was pushing for. I suspect to see the province, continue to do so, to drive those projects. I'm a former mines minister and visited there when I was leader of the opposition. I'm a big proponent of that, and I hope we'll see a federal provincial cooperation working with Indigenous communities. Last point, yes, I am on the Tunnelista list. Help me in Team Tunnel, Dave Trafford. I think that I want to see, if this this can work. I will say if Boston could do it, Miami could do it, they could dig under the English Channel. Let's see what this would mean for Ontario. That is such a bottleneck that I think we have to actually be daring. There's not much room to expand right or left. You can build up or build down, and maybe building down is actually the best solution. If we really want to get products to market, people moving, getting more jobs created and investment in the western part of the GTA, I'm for doing something big.